This episode of Killing Bites marks the very end of the first major arc of the series. It's sexy, it's violent, and it ends on an epic cliffhanger that is going to bring us to the next part of the Killing Bites series. Will we get a season 2? Hopefully. But for now, let's just go ahead and talk about the final episode of Killing Bites. To say this episode was shocking would be kind of an understatement. A lot of major characters were killed off in this episode. The political landscape of the Killing Bites world has also shifted. In fact, the very end of this week's episode, we get a glimpse into the future of the Killing Bites anime series, and it looks like this whole Therianthrope thing is going mainstream. So I really can't wait to see what the future of Killing Bites is going to hold, but let's talk about this episode right here, which at the end of the day kind of made me realize that the first 12 episodes, the first season of Killing Bites, is essentially a prologue to a much bigger story. In fact, it looks like even Hitomi might not even be the main character if there is going to be a second season. Really, this entire series was sort of setting up the world of Killing Bites and what it would eventually evolve into. And that ride, I have to say, was really fun. And this episode right here had a lot of really great moments, so let's talk about all of them right now. First, the last episode ended with all of those chameleon men on the island who are basically there to clean up and destroy every surviving member of the Destroy All, and since they are reptiles, of course they belong to the Sumitomo clan. Now, when they finally get there, they start to attack the rabbit, but then of course suddenly Hitomi gets up and manages to take out all of them with extreme violent prejudice, which is pretty freaking awesome considering that she's already missing an arm, but it's really Shinozaki who ends up saving the day. She shows up as well, and I thought that she was going to be a Therianthrope, but apparently that's not the case. She's just a really kick-ass martial artist who's also a really crazy over-the-top announcer, and she destroys these guys in like such violent fashion, as well as filming everything and reassuring everyone that the entire Killing Bites thing is under control. But that's when we get what I think is probably the most interesting aspect of the episode, where we get to see that apparently the Ishida clan and the other clan whose name, I'm sorry, I just cannot remember it, I think it's Yatsubishi, they actually team up with Shido and perform a coup d'etat against the Sumitomo and Mitsukado clans. They basically have them get killed right there. This has all been a plan to sort of take over them, take this whole Therianthrope concept and make it more mainstream and give it to the public. Basically, they're taking over the entire Zaibatsu thing and transforming it into something that's even crazier. And they've even gotten control of Leo here. Although I wouldn't say he's under control. Leo does exactly what he wants to, but he actually manages to not only kill Sumitomo by scratching his face like frickin' Wolverine, but even manages to kill his former boss, who is Yoko's grandfather, which leads to one of the most shocking scenes of the episode. When, of course, she realizes she loses, she goes to meet her grandfather and finds his dead body and realizes that her entire family has basically just been tossed to the winds. They're not important anymore. She no longer has any pull in this organization, and even Leo manages to leave her. That is until he decides to make her his in a very disturbing scene, which can be interpreted in a number of different ways, but honestly for me it just comes across as very domineering and very just disturbing. Maybe one of the most disturbing scenes of the series. Basically, Leo just jumps right up on Yoko and they just start doing it right there, right next to her father's dead body right there. But she's being subjugated to a point where she doesn't even feel like a human anymore. And of course, that's very metaphorical and good and almost maybe a little too deep for a series like Killing Bites. But Leo himself as a lion is managing to take anything that he wants and make it his. And I really love the power play here, where before he was seen as something of a slave, now he's doing that to Yoko. But again, it paints him in a much more malicious and very disturbing light. It's a hard scene to watch, to be perfectly honest, as this girl has officially been completely broken, and then basically she is forcibly raped by a lion. That's really the best way to put it. It's just really freaking messed up, and I'm kind of interested to see where this is all eventually going to be heading, as it is implied, of course, that Leo is doing this so that, of course, that he can bear himself an offspring. An offspring might actually make an appearance in the later part of the series. So all of that stuff is just freaking messed up. Shido has officially taken over these Zaibatsu clans in the name of science and bettering the world and bringing about the better evolution of things. This guy sounds like a freaking Metal Gear villain. But then we have the final scenes with Yuya. After all this destroy all stuff is done, he goes back to his normal, boring college life until he is eventually contacted by Hitomi when he meets her in the original spot that he met her in that junkyard. And this is a really important scene, as this is the moment where you figure he's going to confess his feelings for Hitomi. But no, basically he just sort of says that it's because of her that he's been able to become a much better person and more, independent, so to speak. He doesn't always have to ride the coattails of people. He can make his very own decision. And Hitomi was, of course, expecting him to confess his love, and in many ways he kind of did. It's a nice tender moment between the characters. They start blushing, and then suddenly Hitomi just ends up killing Yuya right there. She just slashes right through him in what might be the most shocking scene of the entire series, and that I didn't see it coming, and I was like, okay, this is a bold decision. You're actually going to kill this character off. Basically, Shido instructed her to kill Yuya in this moment in order to basically detach her feelings from him. And she claims that she couldn't do it, and this is sort of a first clue for the end of the series, but it's such a weird moment of her just killing this character and then just leaving right after that. And as soon as all of that's done, we flash forward a couple of years in the future. We get to see in the Tokyo Bay there is this city, which is filled with all sorts of Therian Throat people who are in their transformative states and even still having Killing Bites tournaments, albeit in a non-lethal fashion. And even Ui Inaba, the rabbit girl, has become something of an idol in this world, which is something that's also kind of funny, to be perfectly honest. And they actually go out of their way to start introducing some brand new characters, such as this schoolgirl who claims she's going to be the best at Killing Bites, and this one goth-looking chick who also looks like she's going to be very important. They make sure to focus on these characters a little bit, but then the series ends with one final character reveal, a man in a hoodie, which, believe it or not, appears to be Yuya, who actually did survive against Hitomi's attack. And I guess this is what Hitomi meant by saying that she couldn't really do it. She couldn't kill Yuya. She just damaged him enough to the point where he would knock out and somehow survive all that massive blood loss. But why is Yuya here? Does he seem to still have some feelings for Hitomi? Has he become a Therianthrope himself? What's the deal with all these new characters? Why is this world all of a sudden so happy, bubbly, and looks like something out of Zootopia? What is going on? So, what's the rundown on this episode of Killing Bites? This was a crazy finale, which totally lived up to all of the ridiculousness of the entire series, as well as promising that there could be a really cool future for the show. And I want to see this future. I want to see how this is all going to play out, what Hitomi's role is actually going to be in this brand new story in this Killing Bites tournament. And basically, like I said, this whole show has been sort of like a setup for that storyline. It makes sense. I've seen a lot of other series do similar concepts where the first major arc is simply just a setup. But I still want to learn a little bit more about Hitomi. I want to see more of her relationship with Yuya evolve just a little bit more. And it's certainly got a lot more complex after this episode, especially after he's been attacked, and yet he still manages to keep his head up and even has good feelings about the future of this Therian Throat freaking prosperous place. I don't know. It's strange. It's really weird, but I really want to see what they're going to do with the future of the show. I don't know if there's going to be a future. To my knowledge, they haven't announced anything about a Season 2 yet, and this really could have just been a big commercial to go and read the Killing Bites manga series. But the way that everything wrapped up, I thought was really solid. They not only managed to end the story, but give us a lot of interest for the possibility of the future. But even if they end here, it's still a pretty satisfying ride. But considering that they went out of their way to introduce those new characters at the very end, I have a feeling we're going to see more from this franchise, which pretty much is exactly what I expected from the show. Before Killing Bites even began, I looked at the premise, I looked at the trailers, I looked at the character designs, and it was exactly what I thought it was going to be, which was just a really over-the-top, super sexy, violent show. Nothing more, nothing less. It's not reinventing the wheel or anything, but it's been entertaining as hell. It's the type of anime series that I can watch once and be completely satisfied with, and in a couple of years I can randomly bring it up and talking with friends and get a good smile and laugh and remembering that hilarious show that I once saw. I wouldn't say it's the type of show that I'm going to put in my collection or anything I really plan on rewatching, but for what it was in the moment, it was a pretty fun show. But still, I think there is potential for the actual concept, and that could evolve a lot with the next part of the story, which already is completely different than anything we actually saw in the first half. I mean, just imagining a world of all of these animal people opens up so many possibilities. And I mean, it's nothing new or anything. Like I said, it's not reinventing the wheel, but just getting to see like more different animals fighting against each other, new animal facts, and maybe some sort of intriguing story going on behind the shadows. Hitomi's probably going to be a part of that now. Like, I really can't wait to see what that's going to offer the viewer. I'm very excited for that. So, the future for the series looks bright, but my final thoughts on the entire franchise as a whole, like I said, it was just a fun, loud, popcorn entertainment kind of anime series that I can highly recommend if you're looking for something that's action-packed and kind of creative and even has some really fun animal facts. That's really Killing Bites in a nutshell. Animals, sex, and fun. It can get kind of disturbing in some areas, like that moment with Leo and Yoko in this episode, and honestly, I can't wait to see what that's actually going to lead to, especially because there's still so much potential for how they built up a lot of these characters, especially Leo, and considering we're going so far in the future, it's a shame that we're never going to get like that young Hitomi fighting against him rematch again that I've been really wanting to see. Hopefully something that I was thinking they were going to be building up to, and they really showed how incredibly scary he was in this episode and the way they exaggerated his transformation when he was leering over the table after killing the Sumitomo leader. That was a really great image. I really love how they do a lot of the exaggerations in this series of the animal forms to truly make them seem very scary, as well as doing a great job of always incorporating those animal characteristics in with the other characters. They always just manage to make it work. Really, what I'm saying is there's still a lot of untapped potential for Killing Bites. It does have the ability to become something a lot bigger than its outside appearance, and the future could be very bright for this franchise. As it is, this was simply just a fun anime experience, and this episode right here, I am giving a 4 out of 5. If I had only complaints about the series, most of them would simply be superficial stuff. Killing Bites is a series that knows what it is, and it completely owns up to it in every way. So if you're looking for some good old trashy action anime fun that feels like something you'd rent from the video store in the 1980s, then check out Killing Bites. I'd love to hear your thoughts about this episode, and of course the entire series in general, and what you hope to see from the future of the series. If you want to see more anime, or if you're going to dive into the manga version, let's start a discussion below. I'll see you guys next time, and as always, stay down there, baby.